Emperor Vorthak stood alone on the observation deck of his palace, watching the massive human ship enter orbit around his homeworld. The vessel was unlike anything he had ever seen, a kilometers-long construction of black metal that seemed to absorb the light from his system's star. Even at this distance, he could feel the psychological weight of its presence. The ship was called Final Answer, and it carried Admiral Lee Taman to accept the hegemony's surrender. 6 months ago, the Emperor had been the ruler of the galaxy's most powerful military alliance. Today, he was preparing to beg for mercy from the species he had tried to exterminate. "The human admiral requests permission to come aboard," his aide announced, voice shaking with fear. "Grant it," the Emperor replied, "and prepare the formal surrender documents." An hour later, Admiral Lee Taman walked through the palace corridors escorted by Vorthak guards who could barely look at him. The old human soldier moved with quiet confidence, showing no trace of the hatred that the aliens expected. His presence was more terrifying than any weapon. Here was a predator so powerful that he felt no need to display his strength. In the throne room, representatives from all 3 major alien species waited in defeat. The crystalline Zephyrite delegation flickered with dim, fearful light. The gaseous Nethrim representatives barely maintained solid form. The Vorthak nobles kept their heads bowed, unable to meet human eyes. "You wish to discuss terms," Admiral Lee Taman said simply. Emperor Vorthak forced himself to stand straight, despite his fear. "We surrender unconditionally to the human species. We ask only that you show mercy to our civilian populations." The Admiral studied the alien leaders for a long moment. They expected him to demand tribute, to install human governors to turn their species into slaves. That was how galactic conquest worked. The strong ruled the weak without question. "Stand up," he said quietly. The aliens looked confused but obeyed. "We are not here to rule you," Admiral Lee Taman continued. "Humans have no interest in managing alien worlds or controlling alien populations. We want something much simpler: respect." He gestured to a holographic display that showed the galaxy. "For too long, young species have been controlled by older ones. New civilizations are conquered or forced to submit before they can reach their potential. This ends now." Emperor Vorthak dared to speak. "What are your demands?" "First," the Admiral said, "you will recognize human sovereignty over all space we currently occupy. Our colonies, our trade routes, our exploration zones, these are ours by right of conquest." The aliens nodded quickly. That was reasonable, considering they had just lost a war. "Second, you will respect the independence of all species. No more forced alliances. No more conquering young civilizations. Every species has the right to develop without interference." This was more surprising. The hegemony had been built on controlling smaller species. "Third, you will share certain technologies with us, while we will share selected human innovations with you. This exchange will be supervised to ensure no species gains overwhelming advantage over others." Councillor Varix, the Zephyrite representative, dared to ask a question. "What guarantee do we have that humans will not use their power to conquer us later?" Admiral Lee Taman smiled coldly. "You have already seen our power. If we wanted to conquer you, you would already be conquered. We choose not to because ruling an empire requires more effort than it is worth. We prefer to explore new worlds and develop our own civilization." The truth was more complex, but the aliens did not need to know all of it. Humans had learned from studying galactic history that empires always collapsed under their own weight. Better to be feared and respected than to waste resources ruling unwilling subjects. "There is one more condition," the Admiral added. "You will help us establish a new galactic council where all species have representation. Humans will not dominate this council, but neither will any other single species. Decisions will be made by consensus, not conquest." Emperor Vorthak could hardly believe what he was hearing. The humans had the power to demand anything they wanted, but they were offering partnership instead of slavery. "Why?" he asked. "Why show mercy to those who tried to destroy you?" Admiral Lee Taman looked out the palace windows at the alien city below. Millions of Vorthak citizens went about their daily lives, unaware that their species' fate was being decided above their heads. "Because," he said slowly, "we learned something from this war. The galaxy is full of dangers we have not yet discovered. New threats that will require all of our species working together. If we spend our energy ruling each other, we will not be ready for what comes from beyond our borders." The surrender ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as the most powerful military alliance in known history formally submitted to the humans. They had once dismissed as primitive, but the real message was not about human victory, it was about the new order that would follow. President Shin Era addressed the galaxy from Earth, speaking words that would reshape interstellar civilization. The age of conquest is over, she announced. The age of cooperation begins now. Any species that threatens another will face the combined response of all free civilizations. Any species that chooses peace will be welcomed as equals. The immediate effect was dramatic. Dozens of younger species that had been suppressed by the hegemony declared their independence. Trade routes that had been controlled by powerful species opened to everyone. Scientific cooperation replaced military competition as the driving force of galactic development. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo began the careful process of sharing human technologies with former enemies. The adaptive AI systems were modified to help with peaceful research. The psychological warfare techniques were converted into diplomatic tools. Even the feared Reaper ships were gradually converted into exploration vessels, but not all of them. Captain Oh Dong-hyun commanded the Death's Head as it patrolled the dark spaces between star systems. The Reaper fleets had been reduced but not eliminated. They remained as a reminder to any species that might consider returning to the old ways of conquest and domination. Contact on long-range sensors, his navigation officer reported. Unknown ship type approaching from outside the galaxy. Oh Dong-hyun studied the readings. The vessel was enormous, built with technology that did not match any known galactic civilization. Signal the fleet. We may have found the reason humanity needed to unite the galaxy. Meanwhile, Captain Park So-young led the first joint exploration mission to the galaxy's outer rim. Her fleet included ships from every major species: Vorthak cruisers, Zephyrite science vessels, Nethrum scouts, and human Reaper ships working together. Any regrets about not conquering them? Asked her Vorthak second-in-command, Commander Krex, who had volunteered to serve under human command. None, she replied. Conquered subjects fight only because they must. Willing allies fight because they choose to. When we face whatever is coming from beyond our galaxy, I want people who choose to stand with us. The exploration fleet detected signals from the intergalactic void, structured transmissions that suggested a massive civilization approaching the galaxy's edge. The signals were not hostile, but they were powerful enough to suggest technology far beyond anything the local species possessed. Signal Earth and the homeworlds, Captain Park So-young ordered. Tell them we have made contact with something new, something that will test whether our alliance is strong enough to protect the galaxy. Back on Earth, Admiral Lee Tae-min received the report in his office. He was older now, his hair completely gray, but his eyes remained sharp. The galaxy was at peace, but peace was always temporary. Prepare the fleets, he ordered his staff. All fleets, human, Vorthak, Zephyrite, Nethrum, and every other species that can fight. If these new arrivals are hostile, they will find a galaxy that has learned to work together. He walked to his window and looked up at the stars. 6 months ago, humans had been facing extinction. Now they led an alliance that spanned the galaxy. But leadership meant responsibility. The responsibility to protect all the species that had chosen to trust human guidance. Commander Choi Min-ho, now an admiral himself, entered the office with final reports from the outer rim. His neural implants had been updated with diplomatic protocols, turning him from a weapon of war into a tool of peace. The alien signals are getting stronger, he reported. Whatever is coming, it will be here within a year. Admiral Lee Tae-min nodded. Then we have a year to prove that cooperation is stronger than conquest. Signal all allied fleets. Begin joint training exercises. If we are going to face the unknown together, we need to learn to fight as one. The galaxy held its breath as massive shapes moved in the darkness beyond the rim. The war that was meant to destroy humanity had instead forged them into the leaders of a new galactic order. Soon that order would face its first test from forces beyond the stars. In the depths of space, the Reaper fleets waited and watched. The hunt for galactic dominance was over, but humanity's role as protectors of civilization had just begun. The deadliest ships in the galaxy stood ready to defend not just human worlds, but all the species that had chosen to stand with them against whatever emerged from the cosmic dark. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic unity had begun. Admiral Park So-young stood on the bridge of her new flagship, watching the Zephyrite home system through the main display. The crystalline beings had built their defensive network in perfect mathematical patterns, following logical principles that had protected them for thousands of years. "It's beautiful," her tactical officer said, admiring the geometric perfection of the alien defenses. "It's predictable," she replied coldly. "Their rigid thinking will be their downfall." She had been promoted after her success at New Busan, given command of Reaper Fleet 7 with a mission to break the Zephyrite's will to fight. The crystalline beings communicated through harmonic frequencies, thought in mathematical patterns, and built everything according to precise formulas. That predictability would kill them. "Begin the symphony," she ordered. Her ships moved into attack formation, but not in any pattern the Zephyrite could understand. The human vessels positioned themselves according to musical principles rather than military doctrine. Each ship became an instrument in an orchestra of destruction. The Zephyrite fleet commander, Resonator Prism 7, watched the human approach with confusion. "Their formation makes no tactical sense," he told his officers. "They are exposing their flanks and creating gaps in their defensive screen." "Perhaps they are inexperienced with their new ships," suggested his aide. They were both wrong. Admiral Park So-young had studied Zephyrite psychology for 5 years. She understood that their minds could only process information in harmonic patterns. By approaching in seemingly random formations, she was creating cognitive dissonance in their command structure. The attack began with sound instead of weapons. The human ships broadcast complex mathematical sequences that interfered with Zephyrite communications. The crystalline beings found themselves unable to coordinate their defenses as discordant noise filled their networks. "What is this interference?" Resonator Prism 7 demanded. His own voice came out distorted, full of static and painful harmonics. "The humans are broadcasting mathematical chaos," his communications officer replied, his crystal form flickering with agitation. "Our harmonic networks cannot filter out the noise." Admiral Park So-young smiled as she watched the alien fleet begin to lose coordination. The Zephyrite were like a choir trying to sing while someone screamed random notes in their ears. Their perfectly organized fleet began to fall apart. "Phase 2, she ordered. The human ships began their attack using weapons specifically designed for crystalline targets. Instead of trying to smash through Zephyrite shields with brute force, they used resonance frequencies that made the aliens' own defensive crystals vibrate until they shattered. The sight of Zephyrite ships breaking apart from within, their crystal hulls cracking along mathematical stress lines, had a devastating psychological impact on the defenders. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Kim Hyun-woo was unveiling humanity's most terrifying innovation. The Reaper ships approaching the Nethrim gas clouds carried experimental self-replication technology. "Are you certain this will work?" Admiral Lee Tae-min asked as they watched the tactical displays. "The theory is sound," Dr. Kim Hyun-woo replied. "Every alien ship we destroy becomes raw material for building new human vessels. The enemy literally feeds our war machine with their own defeats." The Nethrim had retreated to the dense gas clouds of their birth nebula, thinking the toxic environment would protect them from human attack. Their gaseous forms could survive in conditions that would kill most other species. But Commander Choi Min-ho's evolved fighter squadrons were no longer entirely human. His pilots had undergone surgical procedures that connected their nervous systems directly to their ships. They could survive in environments that would kill normal humans and fly with precision that seemed impossible. "Target the gas refineries first," Choi Min-ho ordered his pilots. "Let them watch their infrastructure turn into our weapons." The human fighters dove into the poisonous clouds like predators entering their natural element. The Nethrim defenders tried to use the gas currents to hide, but the enhanced human pilots could track them through senses that were part biological and part electronic. The battle that followed was unlike anything seen in galactic history. Human fighters moved through toxic gas as easily as fish through water, while Nethrim defenders found their gaseous forms disrupted by sonic weapons that created turbulence in the medium they needed to survive. But the real horror began when the first Nethrim ship was destroyed. Instead of simply exploding, the wreckage was immediately surrounded by human construction drones. Within hours, the alien materials had been transformed into components for new human vessels. "They are turning our dead ships into their weapons," a surviving Nethrim commander reported in panic. "Every ship we lose makes them stronger. The psychological impact was devastating. The Nethrim realized they were not just fighting an enemy, they were feeding it. Every battle made the humans more powerful while weakening their own forces. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo monitored the replication process from his command center. The alien materials were being broken down to their basic elements, then rebuilt according to human designs. The process was not just efficient, it was terrifying to watch. Replication rate is exceeding projections, he reported to Admiral Lee Tae-min. We are gaining ships faster than we are losing them. And the psychological effects? Beyond our calculations. The aliens are retreating from battles they could win, simply to avoid feeding our replication systems. The third major engagement was taking place in the asteroid fields near the Vorthak industrial worlds. Captain Oh Dong-hyun had brought his Reaper fleet deep into enemy territory, hunting the aliens where they thought they were safest. The Vorthaks had learned from their earlier defeats. They no longer tried to fight the human ships directly. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics, trying to wear down the Reapers through attrition. But Oh Dong-hyun had studied Vorthak psychology extensively. He understood that reptilian species had deep evolutionary fears of being stalked by predators. He decided to use those fears as weapons. Signal all ships, he ordered. Ghost Protocol. We hunt them through their own asteroid fields like they are prey animals. The Reaper ships began a campaign of psychological warfare that turned the asteroid belt into a nightmare for Vorthak forces. Human vessels would appear briefly on sensors, then vanish. Mining stations would go silent without explanation. Patrol ships would disappear, leaving only debris fields and emergency beacons broadcasting screams. The Vorthak commander, Admiral Korvex, found himself commanding a fleet that was afraid to split up, afraid to spread out, afraid to operate in the very asteroid fields they had controlled for centuries. They are everywhere and nowhere, he told his officers. Our sensors detect them, then lose them. Our weapons target empty space. They are making us afraid of our own shadows. The truth was even worse than Admiral Korvex realized. The human ships were using the asteroid fields themselves as weapons, pushing rocks into the paths of alien vessels, causing mining explosions that looked like accidents, turning the Vorthak's own industrial infrastructure against them. Commander Choi Min-ho's pilots had evolved even further during the campaign. Their neural links with their fighters had become so complete that the boundary between pilot and ship was disappearing. They moved through the asteroid fields like extensions of the rocks themselves, striking from angles that should have been impossible. The enemy pilots are no longer entirely human, a surviving Vorthak reported. They fly like the asteroids are part of their bodies. They know where every rock will be before it moves. Across the galaxy, the three simultaneous campaigns were having their intended effect. The galactic hegemony forces were not just being defeated, they were being psychologically destroyed. Alien fleets retreated from systems they could have defended. Commanders resigned rather than face human Reaper ships. Entire species began to question whether the war could be won. Emperor Vorthak studied the tactical reports in his private chamber. The numbers were clear. The hegemony was losing the war at an accelerating rate. More importantly, they were losing their will to fight. How did we misunderstand them so completely? He wondered aloud. His chief advisor, an ancient Vorthak military scholar, provided the answer. We assumed they were like us, Majesty. We thought they would fight according to the rules that govern civilized warfare. Instead, they fight like the apex predators they evolved from. What do you recommend? Surrender, Majesty, before they decide that examples are not enough and begin exterminating entire species. The Emperor looked out at his capital city, where millions of his people lived in growing fear. Reports from the front lines spoke of human weapons that violated the laws of physics, human tactics that made no logical sense, and human cruelty that exceeded anything in recorded galactic history. Signal the High Command, he said finally. Begin preparing surrender terms. But first, find out what the humans actually want. If we are going to submit to them, we need to understand what kind of masters they intend to be. In human space, Admiral Lee Tae-min received reports of increasing alien demoralization. The Reaper fleets had accomplished their mission. The galaxy's greatest military alliance was collapsing from within, destroyed by fear rather than superior firepower. 3 months into the war, the Galactic Hegemony Council gathered in emergency session. The holographic displays showed battle reports from across human space. The numbers made no sense. Explain this to me again, demanded Zephyrite High Counselor Varix, his crystalline form glowing with angry light. We have conquered 12 human colonies, but we have lost over 3,000 ships. Admiral Korath stood before the council, his reptilian features showing exhaustion. The humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. They do not follow standard military doctrine. Every battle is different. Every tactic is unexpected. The gaseous Nethrim representative's voice whispered through the chamber. Our war computers calculate that at current loss ratios we will lose our entire fleet before we reach Earth. This is impossible. Humans are a young species with primitive technology. Emperor Vorthak studied the battle recordings. Human ships used debris as weapons. They attacked from impossible angles. They seemed to know exactly where to hit alien vessels for maximum damage. There is something we are missing, he said slowly. No species fights this effectively without superior technology or numbers. Yet the humans have neither. Unknown to the aliens, Admiral Lee Taman was about to give them their answer. Deep in space, far from any star system, the first Reaper-class battleship powered up its engines. The ship was enormous, painted black as the void itself, bristling with weapons that had never been seen in galactic warfare. Captain Oh Dong-hyun walked the bridge of his ship Death's Head. His crew had trained for 15 years for this moment. Every officer, every technician, every weapons specialist had been selected and prepared specifically for Reaper operations. Status report, he ordered. All systems online. Captain, his first officer replied. Stealth field is active. We are invisible to all known sensor types. Weapons, quantum disruptors are charged. Plasma cannons are ready. The psychological warfare systems are online and broadcasting on all frequencies. Oh Dong-hyun smiled coldly. The psychological warfare systems were his favorite part of the Reaper design. The aliens expected warfare to be clean and honorable. They were about to learn what human creativity could accomplish when unleashed without limits. Signal the fleet, he ordered. All Reaper ships begin the hunt. Across the galaxy, 47 identical ships began moving toward their targets. Each one was commanded by officers who had studied their specific alien enemies for years. They knew how each species thought, how they reacted to fear, and what would break their morale most effectively. The Vorthak Third Fleet was patrolling the space around the conquered colony of New Sol when the first Reaper attack began. The alien ships detected nothing unusual until human vessels simply appeared among them, as if materializing out of empty space. The Reaper ships did not announce themselves. They did not demand surrender. They simply began killing. Admiral Korath watched in horror as his flagship's sensors tried to track the attackers. The human ships moved like living creatures flowing around his formations, striking where his defenses were weakest. How are they getting through our sensor nets? He demanded. Sir, our instruments show empty space where the attacks are coming from, his sensor officer replied, voice shaking. The ships appear for a few seconds when they fire, then disappear again. The Reaper ships used stealth technology far beyond anything the aliens possessed. But more terrifying was how they fought. They did not line up and trade shots like civilized warriors. They hunted like predators using fear and confusion as weapons. Oh Dong-hyun's ship targeted the alien command vessels first, but instead of simply destroying them, the Reapers used precise shots to disable communications, weapons, and engines. They left the alien crews alive but helpless, broadcasting their panic on all frequencies for other alien ships to hear. This is Admiral Korath to all ships, the Vorthak commander's voice filled with terror. We are under attack by unknown human vessels. They appear and disappear at will. Our weapons cannot lock onto them. Request immediate reinforcement. His transmission cut off as the Death's Head materialized directly above his flagship. The massive Reaper ship hung there like death itself, its black hull absorbing light from the nearby star. Surrender your fleet, Oh Dong-hyun's voice came over the alien communication system, or we will demonstrate why humans are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Admiral Korath looked up at the human ship through his bridge windows. He could see weapon ports that seemed to shift and change shape. The vessel's hull was covered in designs that hurt to look at directly. Never, he snarled. Fire all weapons at that ship. Every alien vessel in the fleet opened fire simultaneously. Hundreds of energy beams struck the Reaper ship. The aliens expected to see it destroyed instantly. Instead, the beams seemed to be absorbed by the black hull. The ship's shields flickered with strange colors that made alien eyes water. Then the Reaper fired back. The return shot was unlike anything in galactic military history. It was not just a weapon, it was a statement. The beam that struck Admiral Korath's ship did not simply destroy it. It unraveled it, taking the vessel apart molecule by molecule while keeping the crew alive long enough to scream. The psychological impact on the remaining alien ships was devastating. Half of them tried to flee immediately. The others fired wildly in all directions, no longer able to track their targets. Meanwhile, Commander Choi Min-ho led his squadron of upgraded fighters against the alien fighter screen. His pilots now flew ships that could phase through enemy shields, materializing inside alien vessels to attack from within. "Remember," he told his pilots, "we are not just fighting their ships, we are fighting their minds. Make them afraid to leave their homeworlds." The new human fighters moved through space like ghosts. They would disappear from sensors, then appear inside alien fighter formations. The enemy pilots found themselves under attack from impossible angles, by weapons that ignored their defenses. But the most terrifying aspect of the Reaper attack was how precisely targeted it was. The humans had studied each alien species for decades. They knew exactly what sounds, images, and tactics would cause maximum psychological damage to each type of enemy. The crystalline Zephyrite received broadcasts of discordant noise that shattered their harmonic communication systems. The gaseous Nethrim found their cloud forms disrupted by sonic weapons designed specifically for their physiology. The reptilian Vorthax faced images and sounds that triggered primal fears buried deep in their species' evolutionary memory. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo monitored the battle from his command center on Earth. His screens showed the psychological impact measurements in real time. The alien fleets were not just being defeated, they were being terrorized. Effectiveness rating? Admiral Lee Taman asked. "Beyond our highest projections," Dr. Kim Hyun-woo replied. "The aliens are retreating from battle zones where they still outnumber us 10 to 1. Fear is spreading faster than our actual attacks." "Good," signal all Reaper commanders. "Move to Phase 3. The surviving alien ships from the Third Fleet attempted to retreat in complete disorder, but the Reaper ships followed them, appearing randomly to destroy stragglers. The human vessels did not pursue like normal warships. They hunted like predators following wounded prey. Captain Oh Dong-hyun allowed most of the alien fleet to escape. Survivors were more valuable than corpses. They would spread stories of invincible human ghost ships that could appear anywhere, ignore any defense, and kill without warning. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as other Reaper fleets engaged alien forces. Each attack was carefully planned to maximize terror while minimizing human losses. The aliens began to realize they were not fighting a conventional war. They were being stalked by apex predators who had been planning this hunt for decades, the Galactic Hegemony. Council received the first reports within hours. The descriptions seemed impossible. Human ships that could become invisible, weapons that killed in ways that violated known physics, tactics that made no logical sense but were devastatingly effective. "This changes everything," Emperor Vorthax said quietly. "The humans were never weak. They were hiding their true capabilities, studying us while we dismissed them as primitive." "What do we do?" asked Counselor Varix. The Emperor looked at the casualty reports. In 3 months of conventional warfare, they had lost thousands of ships. In 3 days of fighting these new human vessels, they had lost twice as many. "We learn what it means to be prey," he replied grimly. In the darkness between stars, the Reaper fleets continued their hunt, and the galaxy began to understand that humanity was not the victim in this war. They were the predator that had been waiting patiently for their enemies to reveal themselves. The Vorthak War fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a storm of metal and death. 10,000 ships filled the space around New Busan colony. Admiral Korath, the reptilian commander, studied the human defenses through his ship's sensors. He saw exactly what he expected: old human cruisers and outdated defense platforms. "This will be over quickly," he told his officers. "The humans have brought museum pieces to fight our modern fleet." Captain Park So-young watched the alien ships from the bridge of her cruiser Defiant. The old ship looked worn and patched, like most of the human vessels defending the colony. Her crew appeared nervous, constantly checking their instruments and weapons. "Captain, they have us outnumbered 50 to 1, her weapons officer reported. "I can count, Lieutenant," she replied calmly. "Signal all ships. Follow the plan exactly as practiced. The alien fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Their ships gleamed with advanced armor and powerful weapons. Admiral Korath smiled as he gave the order to attack. This would be the first step in destroying the human species. The battle began with the aliens firing their main guns. Bright energy beams struck the human ships. Several exploded immediately, their old shields unable to stop the advanced weapons. As expected, Admiral Korath said, "Human technology is decades behind ours. Signal the rest of the fleet. Tell them the invasion will proceed faster than planned." But Captain Park So-young was not discouraged by the losses. She had expected to lose ships in the opening minutes. That was part of the plan. Phase 2, she ordered quietly. The remaining human ships suddenly changed their behavior. Instead of fighting in formation like the aliens expected, they began moving in unpredictable patterns. They fired at unexpected angles. They used the destroyed human ships as cover. More importantly, their weapons began hitting harder than before. The alien ships' shields, designed to stop predictable attacks, struggled against human weapons that constantly changed frequency and power levels. "What is happening?" Admiral Korath demanded as 3 of his cruisers exploded in quick succession. "How are their ancient weapons penetrating our shields?" His science officer studied the sensor readings frantically. "Sir, their weapons are adapting to our defenses in real time. Every shot they fire is slightly different from the last one. Our shields cannot adjust fast enough." Captain Park So-young smiled as her ship's hidden systems came online. For decades, human engineers had been reverse engineering captured alien technology. They had learned how alien shields worked, how alien weapons functioned, and most importantly, how alien minds thought about warfare. The humans had built adaptive AI systems that learned from every enemy shot. Their weapons changed continuously, finding new ways to penetrate alien defenses. Their shields shifted frequencies randomly, making them harder to target. But the real surprise came when the alien fighters attacked. Commander Choi Min-ho led his squadron from the asteroid belt where they had been hiding. His fighters looked like standard human interceptors, but they carried experimental systems that had never been tested in real combat. The Vorthak fighters moved in perfect formation, following textbook attack patterns. They expected the human pilots to do the same. Instead, Choi Min-ho's pilots fought like wild animals. They used the asteroids as weapons, pushing them into alien flight paths. They flew through clouds of debris that should have destroyed their ships. They attacked from directions that should have been impossible. "How are they surviving in that debris field?" the alien fighter commander asked his pilots. "Their ships should be torn apart." What the aliens did not know was that the human fighters were controlled by pilots whose brains were directly connected to their ships through experimental interfaces. The pilots could feel every movement, react to every threat faster than normal human reflexes allowed. Choi Min-ho dove his fighter through a cloud of metal fragments, his enhanced senses tracking every piece of debris. Behind him, alien fighters tried to follow and crashed into asteroids they could not avoid in time. "Target the asteroid mining station," he told his pilots. "Make it look like an accident." The human fighters attacked the mining station with precise shots. The station exploded, sending huge chunks of rock flying toward the alien fleet. Admiral Korath watched in horror as the debris smashed into his ship's formations. "Clever," he admitted grudgingly, "but tricks will not save them." He was wrong. Everything the humans did had a deeper purpose. While the aliens focused on the obvious battle, human ships were scanning every alien vessel, recording their weapon frequencies, their shield patterns, their tactical responses. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo monitored the battle from a hidden base in the outer system. His computers collected every piece of information the human ships gathered. Each alien shot, each defensive move, each tactical decision was recorded and analyzed. "How much data do you need?" Admiral Lee Tae-min asked from Earth. "We have enough," Dr. Kim Hyun-woo replied. "The Vorthaks fight exactly like our models predicted. Rigid formations, predictable tactics, shields that follow mathematical patterns. They are powerful, but they cannot adapt." The battle continued for 6 hours. The humans lost many ships, but they made the aliens pay dearly for each victory. For every human ship destroyed, 3 alien vessels were badly damaged or destroyed completely. Captain Park So-young found herself commanding the last 5 human ships. Her vessel was damaged, her crew was exhausted, but she had accomplished her mission. The aliens now thought they understood human capabilities. "All ships withdraw," she ordered. "Phase 1 is complete." The surviving human ships retreated toward the inner system. Admiral Korath let them go. He had won the battle, but the cost had been much higher than expected. Casualties? He asked his staff. 300 ships destroyed or heavily damaged, his aide reported. The humans fought harder than intelligence predicted. Admiral Korath studied the tactical reports. The humans had used every trick possible, but they were clearly outmatched. Their old ships and primitive weapons could not stand against modern alien technology. Signal the High Command, he ordered. New Busan colony has fallen. Human resistance was fierce but futile. We will proceed to the next target system. But in the darkness beyond the battle zone, other eyes were watching. Ships that did not appear on any sensors recorded everything that happened. Computers analyzed every aspect of the alien fleet's performance. And in hidden bases throughout human space, the final preparations for Operation Reaper Protocol continued. Captain Park So-young reached the rally point with her surviving ships. A medical transport waited to treat her wounded crew. But more importantly, a data transport collected the intelligence her ships had gathered. Did we get everything? The intelligence officer asked. Everything and more, she replied. Their shield frequencies, weapon signatures, tactical patterns, even the psychological profiles of their commanders. When the Reapers attack, we will know exactly how to hurt them. The intelligence officer smiled grimly. The aliens think this was our best effort. They have no idea what is coming. Far from the battle, Admiral Lee Tae-min received the complete battle reports. The first phase had worked perfectly. The aliens were confident. Their fleets were moving deeper into human space, and they believed they understood human military capabilities. Begin Phase 2, he ordered. Signal all Reaper fleet commanders. The hunt begins in 72 hours. Across the galaxy, ships that had never been seen began to move. Weapons that existed only in classified files were powered up. And humanity prepared to show the aliens what real predators could do when their species faced extinction. The Vorthak High Command celebrated their easy victory at New Busan. They had no idea that everything they had seen was a carefully planned deception. The real war was about to begin. The massive alien ship hung in space like a dark mountain. Inside the Grand Council chamber, Ambassador Yang Ji-hee stood alone before thousands of hostile alien faces. The air smelled of sulfur and ozone. Strange creatures with scales, crystals for skin, and bodies made of gas filled the enormous room. The Vorthak Emperor rose from his throne. His reptilian scales gleamed under the harsh lights. Sharp teeth filled his mouth when he spoke. Human, he hissed. Your species has spread across too many worlds. You fight too much. You never follow our rules. Today we give you one last chance. Yang Ji-hye remained calm. She had expected this moment for years. Earth's leaders knew this day would come. The aliens feared humanity's growth across the galaxy. They wanted to stop humans before they became too powerful. 30 days, the Emperor continued. Leave all your outer colonies. Bring your ships back to Earth. Accept our rule over your species. Do this, or we will destroy every human in the galaxy. The chamber filled with angry roars and strange sounds from the alien audience. They wanted war. They thought humans were weak and would surrender quickly. Yang Ji-hye smiled. I have Earth's answer. The Emperor leaned forward. Speak. We reject your terms, she said clearly. Come and take what you think you can. Shocked silence filled the chamber. The aliens had expected fear, begging, or immediate surrender. They had never heard such defiance from a species facing complete destruction. The crystalline Zephyrite delegate's voice rang like breaking glass. You cannot win against our combined fleets. We have ships you cannot imagine. Weapons your technology cannot match. Yang Ji-hye nodded politely. Perhaps. But you will have to prove it. The gaseous Nethrim representative's voice whispered like wind. Your arrogance will cost every human life in the galaxy. Maybe, Yang Ji-hye replied. Or maybe you have underestimated what humans can do when they face extinction. The Emperor stood again, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. So be it. 30 days from now, our fleets will begin the cleansing of human space. We will start with your border colonies and work our way to Earth. When we finish, humans will exist only in our history files as a lesson for other young species. Yang Ji-hye bowed slightly. We will be waiting. Hours later, her small diplomatic ship raced back toward human space. She sent an encrypted message ahead. Red Dawn Protocol activated. On Earth, Admiral Lee Tae-min received the message in his office deep beneath the military headquarters. The old soldier had fought in dozens of battles across human space. His weathered face showed no emotion as he read Yang Jihai's report. He pressed a button on his desk. "Bring me Captain Park So-young and Dr. Kim Hyun-woo, Priority Alpha." Within minutes, the two officers arrived. Captain Park So-young was young but brilliant, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo looked like a simple scientist, but he held humanity's most dangerous secrets. "The aliens have made their choice," Admiral Lee Tae-min said. 30 days until they attack. President Shin A-ra has authorized Operation Reaper Protocol. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo nodded slowly. "How long do we pretend to be weak?" "As long as possible," the Admiral replied. "Let them think they are winning. Let them bring their entire fleet close to our space. When they realize the truth, it will be too late." Captain Park So-young studied the star charts on the wall. "They will hit New Busan first. It's our largest border colony. They want to make an example." "Perfect," Admiral Lee Tae-min said. "Take your squadron there. Use the old ships. Make them think we are fighting with everything we have. But stay alive, Captain. When the real war begins, we will need every good officer." "What about the hidden fleets?" she asked. "They stay hidden," Dr. Kim Hyun-woo answered. "Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology we have built in secret for the past 50 years. The aliens think they know what humans can do. They have only seen our weakest ships and oldest weapons. They have no idea what we have been building in the dark." Admiral Lee Tae-min walked to the window that looked out over Earth's capital city. Millions of people lived and worked below, unaware that their species faced extinction in 30 days. "For 50 years we have prepared for this moment," he said quietly. "Every human colony attack, every pirate raid, every alien encounter taught us something new. We studied their ships, copied their technology, and improved on it. But most importantly, we learned how they think. They think like prey animals," Dr. Kim Hyun-woo said. "Careful, predictable, following the same patterns their species have used for thousands of years. They cannot imagine how predators fight." Captain Park So-young smiled grimly. "They think war is about having bigger guns and stronger shields. But humans know better," Admiral Lee Tae-min said. "War is about deception, adaptation, and the will to do whatever it takes to survive. The aliens have superior numbers and technology, but they have never faced an enemy that fights the way humans fight." The three officers spent the next hour reviewing plans that had been decades in the making. Hidden shipyards and asteroid belts where new weapons were built. Secret bases in empty space where entire fleets waited in darkness. Technologies that would seem like magic to alien eyes. "Commander Choi Min-ho's fighter squadrons are ready?" the Admiral asked. "More than ready," Captain Park So-young replied. "His pilots have trained with the new systems for years. They are eager to show the aliens what human creativity can accomplish." Dr. Kim Hyun-woo pulled up holographic displays of the Reaper-class ships. The vessels looked like death itself. Black metal that seemed to absorb light, bristling with weapons the aliens had never seen. "The psychological impact alone will be devastating," he said. "They expect us to fight like them. Line up our ships and trade shots until one side runs out of vessels. Instead, we will hunt them through space like the predators we are." Admiral Lee Tae-min nodded. 30 days to prepare. Then we show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens the human species." As the meeting ended, each officer returned to their duties. Across human space, the final preparations began. To outside observers, it looked like panicked preparation for a hopeless war. Ancient ships were pulled from storage. Civilian vessels were converted to military use. Colonies were evacuated. But in the darkness between stars, something else was happening. Ships that had never been seen by alien eyes were moving into position. Weapons that existed only in classified files were being loaded. And throughout human space, soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment were taking their positions. The aliens had 30 days to enjoy their confidence. After that, they would learn why humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy.